I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Booby.
Vita and Chip and Culpy.
And Rocky. Rocky's back in the house. Gotta give Rocky some love.
Yep.
What's up, Rocky? What's
He's
good?
glowing.
What's good, my
Gonna
dude?
change his bulb every time it gets dropped.
Yeah.
The bulb dies.
Slipknot.
Yeah.
You know, I used to call them poop knot or shit knot. My girlfriend at the time was a huge Slipknot fan, and she would get triggered so easily. So I'm like, are we going to the poop knot? The shit knot? I mean, the Slipknot concert? Sorry.
You're terrible.
That's the type of person I was. My penny was on my
Yeah, but you liked it.
I loved the band.
Yeah. You just
but
want to trigger her?
I just wanted to trigger her. If you want to check us out in other contexts, you can check us out at Middle America Vin and Sori. We got Fireside coming up pretty soon. We need to do that. And then there's also Firesides on Sori's channel. If you if you get a Fireside on Vin's channel, we're going to talk about political stuff.
Yeah.
Sori Fireside is when you just kind of chill and hang out and everything is Gucci.
Yeah.
Oh, Billy, oh, doing Moschino, every goodie with a booty but a Gucci.
Okay. Anyway.
Okay, Slipknot. This song is called XIX. It's on the Gray chapter.
So is it 19?
It's the first song.
Is the name 19 of the song, or is it really X?
XIX? I don't know. X is 10, isn't it?
Yeah, but because there's a line before the other X, it makes it 9.
9,
so 19.
I don't know. Slipknot's really big on numbers, so. Alright, let's do it.
Go.
With my face against the floor, I can't see who knocked me out of the way. I don't want to get back up, but I have to, so it might as well be today. Nothing appeals to me. No one feels like me. I'm too busy being calm to disappear. I'm in no shape to be alone. Contrary to the shit that you might hear. So walk with me, walk with me. Don't let this symbolism kill your heart. Walk with me, walk with me. Just like we should have done right from the start. Walk with me, walk with me. Don't let this fucking world tear you apart.
Wait, what? It's done?
It's done.
I thought it was too short. I liked it a lot. I just wish it would have been longer.
This was the first song on the record, so
Yeah.
maybe it was like an introduction.
I liked it a lot.
Man.
For you?
I think the context of the song, I'm assuming it's about, you know, Paul. He had just, this is the first record they made after he died.
Oh.
You know, their bassist.
That's why he said it's
It's for
the
the
song
living.
for the dead, not
The
for
song
the
is
living.
not for the living, it's for the dead.
So it was for him? Well, I thought the beginning was kind of, it sounded like kind of bagpipey. I don't know what they were
Yeah.
using for instruments.
Nah,
but
definitely
it sounded
bagpipe.
like a tribute sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
I don't know if Paul was Irish, but you know the cops. It's a tradition when they die in the line of duty, like in Boston and stuff. They, you know, they play bagpipes and stuff when they, you know.
Bagpipes are, they're pretty cool sounding as far as a tribute goes, you know?
Yeah, they can definitely pull off some mournful minor key.
Yes, but they also sound like have a strong, like, heroic-y sort of sound to them, you know what I mean? Like, my parents, well, I don't know how many times they went. I thought I remember going like twice, but maybe it was only once. There was like this thing, it was so cool, like I would love to bring the kids, they would have loved it. But I don't even know where, it was like Scottish. You know, this is really terrible.
Okay.
So the way that my parents found out about this, there was a friend of the family,
Okay.
and his parents, like his father or something, told him, oh, you're Scottish, like we have Scottish in our background and stuff like that. So like it was a whole bullshit story. They didn't have any Scottish in their background, so that he started researching all the Scottish and like was like all into it, like 110%. And then he ended up finding out it was just a ginormous joke, which was obviously not very fun. But when he thought that he was Scottish, he went to this thing and he invited my family to go, so we all went, and it was like the games that they would do, like you saw these guys in their kilts, like guys going around in kilts, like not like Viking looking people, like built guys in kilts, and they had these huge, like, you know, like they have these big logs, and you like pick up the log and you like throw it and stuff like that. And like they had people that were like playing bagpipes, like literally there, like not just over like some recording, like there was actually people. They did like these all these like rough man games and stuff that they were doing. It was really cool. And then they had all these different things that you could buy. Like it was pretty cool. But anyway, so that's where because I remember when we showed up and we parked, and you had to walk through the trees to get into like this wide open field area where the whole festival thing was happening, and there was people in there that was playing the bagpipes, and it had such a it had a sad sound to it, because it was like, you know, obviously like people have died that belonged to them, you know, but at the same time it had this heroic sort of sound to it. So when I heard it at the beginning of the song, it kind of reminded me of that, like, oh, sidetrack, come back. What do you want to talk about the song?
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to... I was just talking to somebody, and their mom had an aneurysm. And I hadn't heard from them in a while, and I was like, yo. She's like, yeah, I was dealing with my mom's funeral. I was like, shit. I said, well...
Oh my gosh.
I said, well, was she sick? And she's like, nah, she had an aneurysm. I said, bye to her on Friday, and then Saturday I get a call, she's dead. Like, those are... Those will... Like, you know, when he talks about your face being against the floor, there's certain situations where you're like, you expect people to die. You're like, oh, I'm with these whatever, and we're going here, and it's very likely somebody's not gonna, you know, come back. And you know, it's not easy. It's just,
right.
Yeah, it's just math. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
you know, a couple of us are probably not gonna come back, and you know, whatever, and that's hard to deal with for sure. But man, I'll tell you, there's nothing like getting blindsided with somebody you really care about dying. It's like,
An aneurysm, that's no joke.
well, it's just there was no warning, there's no nothing.
No, there's no warning, but it's not like, you know, like somebody has a heart attack and they don't make it out of it. Like there was no warning for that either.
Right.
But aneurysms, it's rough.
What do you mean?
Just what happens to the person.
What do you mean?
I don't think we should talk about it on the thing. You know, don't you think that could trigger people?
I don't know what happens in the aneurysm, so I don't know what you're talking about.
They'll usually like bleed from their eyes and stuff like that. Like it can be really bad.
Oh, I see. Aesthetically speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's more.
Yeah. It's just a crazy situation to be in. It's like you go through all these crazy stages of disbelief. And I've experienced different types of death in my life for sure, but there's one particular one that's I'll never get over ever. But nothing appeals to me. No one feels like me. That's a smart line. That's a very smart line. Because a lot of people, like, that's the thing that happens is like, because eventually, especially the older you get, everybody has experienced death. And so sometimes it gets, I don't want to say trivialized, but it gets kind of diluted and watered down because it's like, yeah, your whatever died, but everybody has lost somebody in this. But he's saying nobody feels like me. And I think probably one of the greatest things I've ever heard all time was that quote from John Piper when he was going through the Gospel of John chapter 2 and Jesus had told Nathanael that he saw him under the tree. And then Nathanael said, "How do you know me, Lord?" And Piper went off about how everybody has the same experiences, but nobody experiences them as you. And I thought that was like mind-blowing.
Oh, that's where you got that? I've heard you say it so many times.
Yeah. That was like mind-blowing to me. I'm like, whoa, that is so true.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So it's like, there's a certain type of loneliness to that. Like, of course, all the band members were in the same situation as Corey. When he says, nothing appeals to me, no one feels like me. Everybody was in the exact same situation, but not everybody was in the situation as him. And I took a lot of comfort in that as a Christian, because I was like, oh, okay, so like that gap of the pain that I'm feeling only as me, like God meets me there. Like, so it's a real personal thing. So I don't know how Corey Han, of course, as a musician, you're gonna put the pain to take. I don't even know what I would do if I was in a band and somebody that I really loved died. I probably wouldn't have made a whole record about them. I just wouldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, you're kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
Did you do one song?
No. Because it would probably be a good one and everybody would want to hear it. And it wouldn't be a song that I'd want to do. And I wouldn't want to be one of those people that writes an amazing song and then doesn't do it. That's like a thing. I wouldn't do it. So kudos to them. Hey, everybody just has different ways of processing stuff. And I probably have the wrong way. But then it's like, what are you gonna cry? You're gonna make a memorial for everybody in your life that's died? Well, then I think to myself, well, I probably lost more people and friends than the average person has
definitely have lost more than them.
Based on certain decisions I've made, I guess. So, I don't know. Well, that's a tough one. Good Lord.
Well, to me, I think I really liked the song because it was, I wasn't privy to the information, first of all, about the bassist. I realized that this was the album after that. But, so it was yeah, it could be, it could be that. But then, when I was reading, it was just kind of when you're going through really rough times, because he's saying, with my face against the floor, I can't see who knocked me out of the way. I don't want to get up, but I have to, so I might as well be today. Nothing appeals to me. So it seemed kind of he's been knocked down, and he feels depressed, and then he says, I'm in no shape to be alone, contrary to the shit that you might hear. And that just reminded me, because there's sometimes where I'm just, leave me alone. Well, I don't say that to you, but there's been times in my past where I'll be I just need to be alone, and then I don't really want to be alone. When I was going through that really bad depression, I did kind of want to be alone, but mostly I didn't, but then I did.
Right.
So contrary to what you hear, whatever. And then it says, so walk with me. And then that just reminded me of, See, this song reminded me of us because you used to do that. You would like walk with me, and then there was times where I was walking with you, and you know, you were going through stuff, and so just like we should have done right from the start, walk with me, don't let this fucking world tear you apart. So to me it was like, it kind of like fit that, like so I was like walking on the different trails that we would walk on and stuff like that, and getting through it. And so then I was like, what? The chorus is only sung once? I really like the walk with me part.
Right. No, yeah, it's a good chorus for sure. And that probably has a ton of meaning. He's probably talking to the spirit of his buddy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
You know, it's interesting. I saw a clip with Jim, the guitarist, and he was.
Well, you scared me. I was a little creeped out right now.
He was talking about how there was this one clip where he's talking about how Paul used to, you know, when they were writing and they'd get stuck and he'd say, you know, put it a half step lower, and he would, and then it would work, like, you know, whatever.
Yep.
And then he said. He was writing something and then that popped into his head and he didn't. It worked just like the way that Paul would when he was there. And he's like, I'm not one of those people, but you know, it was Paul's way of showing me he's still with me, yada yada yada. And so, you know, however they deal with it, you know, it's one of those things where, like, you know, is the spirit of Paul, is he talking to the spirit of Paul, like walk with him? Is he talking about the fans? You know, like when he says, contrary to the shit that you might hear, I'm no shake to be alone. So is he saying, like,
right, yeah,
we need to go out there and be with you guys and whatever? Because I do think that, especially when you go through something like that. I saw a show that they did one time.
Yeah.
And it was like the first or second show that they did without him. And they like put his gear up on the stage or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. So those type of losses are terrible, man.
His was a sudden thing?
Yeah, I don't know if it OD'd is the word, but there was something with his medication. It didn't mix right, and he died in a hotel room or whatever. And yeah, so yeah, that was him. And he was kind of like the one in the band, apparently, that was like the calm, like, come on guys, let's keep focused on the music, because, you know, Corey is very volatile, and then Sean, and then, you know, you got all these like strong personalities, and he was able to, like, he had the kind of respect of everybody in the group, you know. So everybody took it really, really hard. I mean, right after this happened, like a couple months later, I guess Joey was out of the band. You know, like there's certain types of things that happen where you're just never really the same person. You know, and I think you have to, you know, however you have to deal with it, I guess you just deal with it. But,
yikes.
But yeah, that
when you told me, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
When you told me, like, oh, like about Paul passing away, then I was like, oh, when it said like the, you know, like where he was like talking, so walk with me, like he doesn't want to be alone and stuff like that. Then I was like, I don't know. Like, I can see why somebody would do that, but then it always kind of like creeps me out. You know what I mean?
Do what?
Like, say, like, talk to like somebody who's dead and say like, oh, like, you know. And like I said before, like I had this friend that, I think I said it on one of our other videos, but I had this friend that was pregnant, and they said that her baby was like, I don't know what they called it, but like basically the whole top part of the baby's head was not going to be there. And it would kind of like look like almost like the top of a hot dog, and it would be really short. And they like immediately started suggesting for her to go for an abortion. But she wasn't religious at all, but she was like, she like was so offended that they would ever suggest that she should kill her child. She was like, I am not, like, if my child dies, you know, like, that's going to be hard, but I'm not going to put my hand to make that happen. And they didn't agree with her because they were like, this is definitely going to happen, and it's going to be very traumatic for you and stuff like that. But she was like, no. And I met her like years after it had happened, and she had, oh God, it was so sad. She had like recorded like her pregnancy, and then like when she was going into the hospital, like her boyfriend at the time was like recording her. He's like, hey babe, how you doing? She's like, I'm nervous, because she knew, you know. And then the baby was born, and did have those complications, and the baby lived like for 6 hours or something like that. She just held the baby the whole time, you know. And she told the baby, like, before it died, like, don't ever leave me. You know, she said, just come back to me. And she said, like, you know when you like flick on a light and it like it blows, the light bulb blows. She's like, every time that happens, I'm gonna know that you're there with me. And then the baby, you know, passed away and stuff, and she did like a little funeral and stuff. And anyway, when she got back to her apartment, she like flicked on the light and she was like, it startled her a little bit, but then she was like, well, you know, I told the baby, you know, to come. And so she was like, okay, the baby's here. And then she went deeper into her apartment to another room and flicked on the light, and the same thing happened. And then it like kind of started like really freaking her out, because she felt like, yeah, I told the baby to do this, but why do I feel so afraid? Like, it wasn't like comporting to the way that she felt when she was holding the baby. And so then she was like, I changed my mind. She was like, don't, you know, basically go rest in peace. Like, don't do this.
Yeah.
You know, and, but then she kind of like second guessed that, like, as time passed, then she kind of second guessed that I make the right decision in telling it to leave. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it seemed to her, and her, like, she didn't really know how to like say it, but like it seemed to her that it wasn't actually the baby, you know, but that it was something else. So like when I hear stuff like that, I'm always like, mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I was a little bit creeped out when all of a sudden you're like, and then I was like, what?
Yeah, that's that's the ultimate question. How do you deal with death?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
separation like that.
I get it. The whole, you just believe in Christianity because, you know, you don't want to die, or you're afraid of death, or whatever. And of course, the older you get, the less I think people are of fearing death, especially if you've like been up close to it, and you just go on to feeling like you're afraid of the death of people around you, or you're afraid of dying, just not necessarily the dying part, but the separation from the people around you type of thing. But yeah, so I get people saying, and if the resurrection stuff wasn't as solid and airtight as it was, then I would get it. But, you know, I believe it. Like, with my whole soul, 100%. Like, I completely believe it. I believe we're going to rise from the dead. I believe I'm going to see you again. You know, so, but I get it. I get why people could say, you know, it's such a deep wound.
Yeah.
When a person dies, and I think we as human beings have been disappointed so many times that I think people are afraid to even believe that you can rise from the dead.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like a person could look at us and say, oh, you just believe this stuff because you're afraid of the implications of there not being a resurrection. And I could say, yeah, but you could be afraid to even begin to believe that could happen, because we've all been disappointed so bad in this world. You know, so yeah, it's crazy. He don't let the symbolism kill your heart.
Yeah, what about that?
That's one of those lines that can be interpreted 16 trillion different ways.
I don't even have one.
Well, I think, you know, there's what's real in the world, and then there's, you know, stuff that's not really significant. And I think that the material world, there's a whole kind of philosophy of life that the things in the material world aren't really there. They're just really symbols for greater realities, right? So, like, for example, you know, I always say, like, you know, a wedding ring is a symbol of something. But if you get caught up in materialism, and I don't mean materialism as in like accumulating things, I mean materialism as in like being attached to this material world, then you're getting attached to the symbols and not the realities that are behind them.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, in that perspective on the world, there's like you, and then there's a physical representation of you, but, you know, what you're loving is the invisible part of the person. You're not loving the physical part of the person. You know, it's sort of like this Gnostic dualist idea. And so people who are so, you know, our friend, you know, our Hindu friend was kind of like that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it was like, So people who get caught up in the physical world are getting caught up in the symbols, and they're not getting past the symbols to the reality.
Yep.
So don't let the symbolism kill your heart.
Yep.
Because, and of course, he means the invisible part of yourself. Mm-hmm. See, he doesn't actually mean your heart. He's talking about the invisible part. Don't let that kill your heart. And then don't let the world tear you apart. Because if you're one of those people that's just stuck with everything that you can see or the physical part of the world, then you're going to get torn apart. Mm-hmm. Because, that's what's going to happen to you. So that was a really interesting set of lines. It's really interesting to think about. Because we're not Gnostics, so we believe the physical world is good and it's important.
Yep.
But I think the remix Christian version is like there are a set of priorities. And so it's not that you completely disavow the physical world, but you just have to reprioritize it. Mm-hmm. So, the author of Hebrews says that, what is seen is temporary, what is unseen is eternal. Mm-hmm. You don't completely throw away the seen.
No, right.
But you just realize that what the priority is. So the unseen is what's most important, and the seen stuff is important secondarily. Mm-hmm. Anyway, good Lord, what a song. What do you give it?
I loved it. It was a 10 for me.
I would have given it a...
wait, I can't give it a 10 because it was too short.
See, I was going to say the same thing. I would have given it a 10 if it was a bit longer.
9.8.
Like a second verse and a chorus and then an end.
I know, I needed that chorus.
But it was just an introduction. Like, how talented do you have to be? It's like, all right, we'll just make the intro to our song, this ridiculously amazing song that 2/3 of the bands of our generation wouldn't be able to put together anyway. Like, okay, these guys are unbelievably talented.
So then how can we dock it if it's an intro? No, it's the opening track.
Yeah, it's the opening track. It's the first song.
Yeah, but lots of first songs are longer. 9.8 for me.
I'll do 9.8. I'm good with 9.8.
Okay.
Good job, Slipknot. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.